Hey, sleepy listener. Welcome to Sleeping Podcast. Where in the world are you listening from? Let us know in the comments. And if you're ready to drift off, like and subscribe. And let's begin.
Hello there, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here, settling into this quiet moment at the end of a long day. You've chosen to drift with me into a slow, gentle story. One told not with urgency, but with calm curiosity. A story designed not to excite, but to soothe. So let's take a breath together, in and out. A rhythm as steady as the earth itself. Tonight, I'd like to take you on a journey. Not a hurried one, not one filled with bright lights or loud discoveries, but a slow and thoughtful wondering about a question that has drifted through human minds for centuries. A question that perhaps was whispered to you once, late at night under the stars. What if Earth itself is not what it seems? What if our home, our forests, our oceans, even our history are part of something larger? What if Earth is a kind of test field, a place shaped, perhaps, not only by time and chance, but also by the gentle hand, of beings beyond our sight, aliens? Not in the frightening, flashing way that movies often show, not with invasion or conflict, but with quiet patience, with curiosity, as if we and our world are a garden, tended slowly, carefully. Of course, no one truly knows, but tonight we don't need to know. We don't need answers. Instead, we can allow ourselves to wander through the what-ifs. We can imagine this Earth of ours, not as a random stone in the vast night sky, but as a place chosen, watched, guided, like an experiment or a story unfolding. And in this imagining, we find peace, because there is no hurry, no urgency, only slow time. The same slow time that has always cradled this planet, through its mountains, its rivers, its endless skies. So, make yourself comfortable. Allow the world around you to soften. The chair you sit in, or the bed where you rest. Let it hold you gently, as if you too are part of the earth itself. Tonight, we will move slowly together through 18 gentle chapters, each one flowing into the next, like a river winding through a meadow. We'll begin by imagining the ancient earth, before humans ever walked its surface. We'll picture forests, oceans, and skies, untouched and quiet, and we'll wonder if perhaps, even then, someone, somewhere, was watching. From there, we'll step through time, the rise of life, the long, slow drift of continents, the flickering lights of civilizations, all with the gentle thought that perhaps Earth's story is being observed, perhaps even shaped not with heavy hands, but with the lightest of touches, like a gardener rearranging stones in a stream, not to control it fully, but to guide its flow. And as we move along, our pace will grow slower, our words softer, until, by the final chapters, you may find yourself drifting into dreams. So let us begin. Let us take that first slow step into this great imagining. Picture Earth as it was long ago, a sphere of oceans and land, still young, still forming, clouds swirling above seas that stretched wide and deep. No humans, no cities, only the steady song of nature. And now, imagine, just for a moment, that you are not alone in looking upon it, that somewhere beyond the stars you see at night, by their eyes are watching too, gentle, patient, curious eyes that see Earth as more than a rock in space, eyes that see it as a field of possibility, a place where life can be tended and patterns can be observed. Is it true? We cannot say, bet in this quiet space. We don't need proof. We only need wonder. And wonder, when taken slowly, becomes something soothing, something that carries us like a soft tide into stillness. So let's breathe again, in and out, and with that breath, we step forward into the first chapter of this slow, dreamlike exploration. Together, we will walk through Earth's story as if the stars themselves were narrating, and always, in the back of our minds, a single gentle question will follow us. What if Earth is just a test field for aliens? Asterisk, let us drift now, far back in time, so far that human history has not yet begun. Tell so far that even the forests and flowers we know have not yet appeared. The earth is young, still forming, still settling. Mountains rise, only to be worn down by rain. Volcanoes glow faintly in the distance. Oceans stretch across the surface, dark, endless, and full of possibility. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine it. A sky without city lights, no buildings, no roads, no sound of machines, only the hush of waves, the hiss of volcanic steam, and the whisper of winds across stone. Here life is just beginning, tiny, unseen, molecules drifting in the water, joining, separating, joining again. Each attempt, a slow step toward something greater. It is peaceful in its own way, slow, patient, unhurried. Nature moving at the rhythm of eternity down. Imagine another layer, not just Earth itself, but something beyond it. Imagine that somewhere far above, there are beings watching Dot, not in the way we might picture them, not with ships or glowing lights, but as quiet witnesses, patient, curious, as if gazing at a delicate experiment. Perhaps they have been watching since the earth first cooled, since the oceans gathered into basins, since lightning danced in the early sky. They would see a world raw and wild, yet filled with potential. Think of how a gardener kneels over fresh soils, not rushing, not forcing, simply waiting to see what will take root. Perhaps these watchers are like that, observing but not interfering, allowing life to find its own way. And so the story of Earth begins, with silence, with slow change, with oceans that hold the seeds of life. The first tiny cells emerge, fragile, invisible to the eyes, yet important in ways that only time will reveal. Each one a note in the opening song of life. And perhaps, above it all, The observers breathe quietly, noticing the patterns, noticing the persistence, noticing that here, on this small blue world, something remarkable is beginning. The earth, in these early days, is both harsh and tender. Storms sweep across continents. Meteorites streak through the atmosphere. Yet, beneath it all, life continues. Small, simple, steady. And isn't it soothing to think that the universe might care enough to watch, that somewhere beyond our reach, others are curious about this little world. They do not hurry it along. They do not shape it with heavy hands. They simply watch. As life grows, step by step, the oceans change color. The skies clear. Mountains rise higher. Forests will one day spread. But here, in this early chapter, all is slow. All is patient. And perhaps, as we rest tonight, we too can become like these watchers, observing gently, without judgment, without rush, just as they may have done for ages, simply watching as Earth begins its long, unfolding story. So let us pause, take a breath in and out, feeling ourselves slow down, just like the planet itself once did, cooling, settling, preparing for the life to come. This is where our story truly begins. And from here, we will walk gently forward to see how Earth changes, how life spreads, and how, perhaps, the eyes of the cosmos remain upon it. For now, imagine one last time this young Earth, the wide oceans, the quiet skies, the patient rhythm of nature, and above it all, the stillness of the watchers, silent, steady, curious, holding Earth in their gaze. Like a candle in the darkness of space, the Earth is no longer only stone and water and air. Something new has begun to stir within it. Tiny lives, smaller than sight, drifting in the oceans, multiplying, changing, becoming the first. Cells, simple, yet extraordinary, silent, yet powerful. If you could float above those ancient seas and look down with the eyes of imagination, you might see them as faint sparks in the water, millions of tiny lights flickering softly. A quiet constellation, not in the sky, but in the sea. Life begins this way, not with sudden leaps, but with slow, patient steps, a rhythm unhurried, like the breath you are taking now. Empower the oceans, cradle these fragile beginnings. Currents swirl them gently. Sunlight touches the surface, and time, endless time, allows them to grow. Now, imagine again that someone is watching, not interfering, not rushing, just watching, like a gardener who has placed seeds in the soil and steps back, waiting for the first green shoots. Perhaps they marvel at the persistence of it all, how life, once begun, refuses to let go, how it adapts, changes, endures, even in the face of storms, of shifting seas, of fiery volcanoes. Still, it continues. Soon, the oceans are alive with more than just sparks. They are filled with tiny communities of cells, linking together, working in quiet harmony. the beginnings of cooperation, the first whisper of what will one day become complexity. It is soothing to think of life this way, not as a sudden miracle, but as a slow unfurling, like a flower bud opening, so gradually you almost cannot see it move. Yet, with patience, you find it has blossomed. The earth, then, is a garden, and every drop of water holds a possibility. Every ripple, a chance for life to shift into something new. And perhaps those silent watchers continue to gaze. Perhaps they see in these oceans not just simple cells, but the beginnings of stories. Stories that will one day rise onto land. Breathe air and look back at the stars. But for now, the earth remains quiet. No voices, no footsteps, only the steady hum of water and wind. And within that quiet, life multiplies. Softly, patiently, we might picture the watchers leaning closer, not with urgency, but with a kind of tenderness, like someone listening for the faintest sound, a whisper carried on the breeze. And the whisper is this: life has begun. It is small, but it is steady. It will grow. When we think of our own lives, our days, our years, we often imagine them as fast-moving. But compared to the earth's rhythm, we too are part of a slow unfolding. We too are buds on a branch, opening gently in time. This is the comfort of looking back, to see that everything that is now was once small, once uncertain, once no more than a flicker, and yet it grew, and so do we. So let's linger here for a moment longer, with the seas of early earth, with their hidden lights, with the gentle possibility that somewhere unseen, eyes are watching, patiently, kindly, not to judge, not to command, but simply to witness, like we are doing now, observing, breathing, resting. The garden of earth has only just begun to grow, and it will continue slowly, into forms stranger and more beautiful than we can yet imagine. Let us close this chapter with a final image. Picture yourself drifting just above the ocean, the stars above, the water below, and in the depths, faint glimmers, like lanterns, moving gently with the tide. That is life, in its beginning, delicate, tender, but unstoppable, a soft song, starting its first verse, and above it all, the possibility of watchers, perhaps smiling, perhaps silent, always patient, as the earth begins to blossom. Asterisk the seas of earth, once filled only with the faintest sparks of life, are beginning to change. Cells, once solitary, floating alone, have started to come together. They link, they share, they build, and in this togetherness, something new begins to emerge. Complexity, it does not happen quickly. It is the work of millions upon millions of years. Yet, in the rhythm of deep time, it is steady, it is inevitable. Imagine drifting once again above those ancient oceans. If you could look closer deep into the waters, you might see shapes forming, filaments, clusters, tiny floating bodies. Some begin to capture sunlight, others drift and feed upon them. A balance begins to form. The first ecosystems, the first gentle web of life. The garden is branching out. What was once only single notes is now becoming chords. And slowly, the melody of earth grows richer. And perhaps, if there are watchers beyond the stars, they lean closer still. They see that the experiment, if we may call it that, is working, that life, given time, does not remain simple. It strives for more. It explores new possibilities. It stretches outward like a vine across stone. The oceans, once quiet, are now alive with movement, invisible to our eyes, perhaps, but vibrant in their own scale. Every drop of water is a universe, every tide a flowing river of lives, and above it all, the sky remains silent. Clouds drift, rains fall, lightning flashes. But below, in the depths, life weaves its patient patterns. Think of it like watching a tree. At first, only a trunk, simple, singular, but in time, branches appear, and from those branches, leaves, and from leaves, flowers. So too does life unfold. It is not hurried, it is not forced, it simply grows. Because that is what life does. Now. Imagine those watchers, patient, quiet, seeing this great branching. Perhaps they do not interfere. Perhaps they only take note, the way a naturalist might watch birds build nests, or the way we watch the seasons shift. And maybe, within their long lives, 1,000,000 years passes as easily as a single evening passes for us. They are in no rush. They are content to let the garden find its own shape. The beauty of this thought is that it places us in a wider rhythm, a slower, gentler time, a reminder that we, too, are branches on this great tree of life. Our steps, our changes, are part of a much longer unfolding. And in the quiet of night, that thought can be comforting. So breathe again, in and out, as steady as the tide, as patient as the sea. The rise of complexity continues. Tiny creatures multiply. Some learn to move, some learn to sense. Some begin the long path toward becoming what we might one day recognize as animals. Still, Earth remains peaceful. There are no voices, no civilizations, only the hum of nature's quiet invention. And perhaps the watchers continue to gaze. Perhaps they marvel at the way life invents itself, again and again, never repeating exactly, always finding new paths, like an artist who begins with a simple sketch, and over time adds detail, color, shading, until the canvas is filled with unexpected beauty. So too does Earth's painting slowly take form. Let us linger on that image, the oceans as a vast canvas, life as the paint, time as the brush, and perhaps unseen eyes as the audience, waiting patiently to see what masterpiece will unfold. This is the rise of complexity, gentle, steady, and always reaching forward. And so we close this chapter, not with endings, but with beginnings. For Earth's garden has only just begun to bloom, and soon its branches will grow stranger still. Creatures will take shape, and the silent watchers may see their first signs of motion, of form, of wonder. Asterisk the ocean, once filled only with drifting sparks of life, is beginning to stir. Shapes are forming, some so small they slip unseen through the water, others larger, soft-bodied, flowing like ribbons in the tide. For the first time, life is not only growing, it is moving. Imagine floating there, just above the ancient sea, and looking down. The water glimmers with sunlight, and in that glow, tiny forms twist and glide, not by chance, but by choice. The first movement, the first gentle push against the current, the beginning of intention. It is not quick, not graceful, but it is enough. And in the silence of those waters, a new rhythm begins to play. Life is no longer carried only by the waves. Life can guide itself, even if only slightly, even if only for a moment. And with that simple change, a world of possibilities. Poopins. Some creatures drift in gentle spirals. Some inch along the seabed. Some float upward toward the light, reaching for the warmth of the sun. Each small motion is a quiet revolution. Each movement, a declaration that life is ready to explore. Perhaps the watchers, if they are truly there, notice this with quiet wonder. For movement is not only physical, it is the first hint of freedom, the first whisper of choice, and choice is the beginning of stories. The seas grow busier. Currents carry not only water, but living forms that now swim against them. Predators, prey, are born in these early dances. The balance of life grows richer, woven into an ever more intricate pattern. And still all is quiet. No voices, no footsteps on land, only the soundless ballet of creatures, drifting, swimming, seeking. Picture one now, perhaps a soft-bodied jelly, its bell pulsing slowly, propelling it through the water. Or a worm-like creature moving gently across the seafloor, simple but alive with possibility. To us, they might seem strange, alien even, but in truth, they are our ancestors. From these simple motions will come the long, winding path that leads, eventually, to us. Isn't it soothing to imagine debt in the movement of a tiny creature millions of years ago? Our own story was already beginning, and perhaps the watchers saw it too. Perhaps they leaned in closer, not with urgency, but with patient delight, the way one might watch a seed sprout or the first footsteps of a child. For now, life remains in the oceans. The land above is empty, silent deserts of stone. Only the waves break against the shore, but below, in the water, motion has begun, and motion will lead in time to more. Let us pause with this thought. Take a breath in and out, each breath a movement, each breath a reminder that we, too, are part of this ancient rhythm. The first creatures were small, their movements simple, yet they carried with them the potential for everything that followed, for fish, for birds, for mammals, for humans, all of it, contained in those first pulses, those first glides through the ancient sea. And perhaps the silent watchers smiled, for they knew that once movement begins, it cannot be undone. Life will continue to explore, to reach, to grow. This is how the garden expands, not in leaps, but in gentle steps. And each step, though small, is a miracle of its own. So let us rest with this image, the oceans of earth, the sunlight streaming through waves, and within it the first creatures learning to move, to guide themselves, to live not only with the tide, but beyond it. The garden has taken a new shape, and soon its branches will spread wider still. Asterisk the oceans, once quiet, once simple, are now alive with abundance. Creatures of many shapes drift through the waters, some tiny, no larger than a grain of sand, others larger, soft-bodied, rippling as they swim. The seas have become a canvas, and life is painting upon it, with colors, with motion, with endless invention. This is the great expansion, a time when Earth's garden flourishes, growing more complex, more varied, more alive than ever before. Imagine it now. The sunlight filters down through the water, and within that glow, whole worlds are moving. Small creatures feeding others, gliding after them. Plants-like forms rising from the seabed, swaying gently in the current. It is a dance, slow, graceful, unhurried. Every movement connected to another. Every life a note in the wider song of the sea. And perhaps, if those silent watchers truly gaze upon Earth, this is a moment of quiet satisfaction. The garden is thriving. The seeds they may or may not have planted are now blooming in countless forms. The oceans are full of surprises. Life invents fins, tentacles, shells, armor. It learns to burrow, to crawl, to grasp. Every adaptation a step in the unfolding story. To us, these creatures may seem strange, spiny, soft, many-legged, but in their strangeness lies beauty. For each is an answer to the question of survival. Each is a whisper of creativity. It is soothing to imagine this world, not hurried, not noisy, just a quiet abundance. Life drifting in harmony with the currents, and yet within that harmony there is change. For the seas are not static. They shift, they swell, they invite life to explore new paths. And life, ever curious, accepts. Some creatures begin to see more clearly. Eyes, simple at first, begin to form. The sea brightens for them, filled with light and movement. For the first time, the world can be looked upon with vision. Other creatures begin to sense vibrations, to hear the hush of water, to feel the presence of others near them. The senses awaken, and with them, new layers of the story unfold. The seas are no longer only a place of drifting. They are a place of awareness, of interaction, of choice. And perhaps, as we rest tonight, we too can sense the comfort of awareness, the gentle noticing of our breath, the soft rhythm of our heart, the way the body rests more deeply the longer we remain still. Awareness does not need to be loud. It can be as quiet as the gaze of an unseen watcher, as tender as the first sight of light through the eyes of an ancient creature. The great expansion continues. Millions of forms fill the sea, each one fragile, each one miraculous dot, and above it all, the earth remains silent, the land empty, waiting for its time. But in the water, the garden blooms, and perhaps in some distant corner of the universe, eyes continue to follow this slow unfolding, not interfering, not rushing, simply observing, simply wondering, what will become of this small, blue world? What paths will life take? What stories will grow here, across the oceans, across the land, across the sky? For now, the answer is simple. Life flourishes, it multiplies, it fills the seas with endless forms, and in its quiet abundance, it prepares for the next chapter. So, let us pause here. Imagine the oceans, full and bright, creatures of every shape gliding slowly, as if in a dream. The sea alive with motion, the waters alive with light. This is Earth in its great flourishing, a garden not of flowers, but of living seas, and above it all, a stillness, like the watchers themselves, silent, patient, ever-present, the oceans, so full, so abundant, have carried life far. But now, something new begins. At the edges of seas and rivers, where water meets stone, life stretches outward, tentatively, gently, as though curious, as though testing. Plants are the first to reach. Simple at first, algae, clinging to wet rock. Then, with time, ferns and mosses, spreading softly across the damp earth. Green carpets, hugging the shorelines. The land, once barren, begins to soften. It is no longer only stone and sand. Now there is green. Now there is breath. Imagine standing there, in that ancient silence, before birds, before mammals, before even insects filled the air. The land is hushed, but slowly it begins to change. From the seas, creatures follow. Some crawl, their bodies heavy, their movements clumsy, but determined. They inch their way onto the shore, seeking food, seeking light, seeking something new. It is not easy. The air is dry, the ground unyielding, yet still they persist. Life does not stop at the boundary of water. It yearns to expand and expand. It does, and perhaps, if there are watchers gazing down, this is a moment of deep wonder. For here, the garden has grown beyond its first cradle. No longer confined to the sea, it now stretches onto the land. A new chapter begins. The first forests rise, ferns and towering trees, casting shadows across the earth. Insects soon follow, their wings buzzing softly, the first voices in the air. The silence of land is broken. Slowly, gently, the world grows richer. Picture it now. An untouched forest, green and damp, mists rising between the leaves. Strange creatures crawling among the roots, their bodies heavy but determined. the first footsteps on soil. It is soothing to imagine. Not a rush, not a sudden leap, but a gradual, reaching the way roots stretch into the ground, or the way dawn light spreads across the sky. Life's expansion is gentle, patient, yet unstoppable. And in this slow unfolding, perhaps the watchers continue to gaze. Perhaps they see, with quiet satisfaction, that life is not content with one home. It seeks many. It explores every possibility. The oceans remain full. But now the land begins to echo with its own rhythms. Leaves whisper in the breeze. Insects hum in the air. And soon larger creatures will follow. For now we pause with this image. The first soft green spreading across stone. The first cautious steps of creatures leaving the water behind. The shoreline, once empty, now alive with movement. This is the threshold of a new era, a quiet, patient expansion. The garden has reached the shore, and soon it will fill the land. So breathe with it, in and out, the rhythm of tides, the rhythm of footsteps, the rhythm of life, always moving forward. The earth grows richer, and with each step it becomes a place of even greater wonder, and perhaps pace even more fascinating to those who may be watching. Asterisk the land, once bare and silent, is now full of life. Forests rise taller and thicker than the world has ever known. Towering trees stretch high, their trunks wide, their roots drinking deep from the soil. Ferns spread across the forest floor, their fronds curling like green spirals. Moss carpets stones and fallen logs, softening every surface. The air is damp, heavy with mist. Each breath is rich, filled with the scent of growing things. The silence of ancient land has ended. Now there is sound, the rustle of leaves, the buzz of insects, the drip of water falling from fern to soil. And moving within this green world are giants. Some are plants, trees so vast they cast entire valleys into shade. Others are creatures, their bodies large and strange. Amphibians, with wide jaws, crawl from the swamps. Insects the size of birds beat their wings in the humid air. The world in this time is abundant and immense. Imagine walking through one of these forests, the ground soft beneath your feet, the canopy high above, filtering light into green shadows. Beside you, a dragonfly as wide as your arm drifts lazily by. Ahead, a lumbering creature moves slowly toward water, its body broad and heavy. The earth feels vast, untamed, teeming with lives unlike any we know today. And perhaps, if there are watchers beyond the stars, this is a moment of quiet astonishment. The garden, they observe, is no longer delicate, no longer fragile. It is thriving, it is bold, it is immense. For them, time may pass differently. Millions of years flowing as gently as minutes pass for us. And so, they see the forests rise and fall, creatures evolve, rivers change course. All of it a slow and steady unfolding. And yet, beneath the grandeur, there is still gentleness. The same patience that carried life from the seas into the forests. Tell fills the land. Life grows, but it does not rush. It expands, but it does not force. The air grows richer with oxygen. Creatures grow larger. Forests stretch wider. The balance of earth deepens. And in this slow abundance, we may find a mirror for ourselves. For just as forests take centuries to grow, we to unfold across time. Our days, our years, like rings in the trunk of a tree, quiet evidence of growth. Let us pause with that image. A tree, ancient and tall, each ring within it a memory of a season gone by, each ring silent, yet together they form a story. So too does Earth carry its history, layer by layer. And perhaps it is this story the watchers observe. Imagine them now, looking upon this age of giants. Perhaps they marvel at the forests, at the creatures with wings and scales, at the abundance of form. Perhaps they wonder, as we do now, what will come next. For this is the beauty of life. It does not stop. It always reaches, always changes. Even in stillness, there is growth. And so the earth, with its vast forests and giant creatures, continues to evolve, preparing slowly for yet another chapter. For now, let us rest with this vision. A world green and immense, leaves whispering in the mist, insects humming in the air, creatures moving quietly beneath the trees. A garden abundant and alive. A garden that, perhaps, is being watched from afar. And we, in our quiet moment here, can share in that stillness. We can breathe it in like mist in the forest air. For this age of giants, though long gone, still lingers in the story of Earth. And the story, bist far from over, asterisk the forests, already vast and green, begin to echo with new footsteps. The Earth has entered a time of giants once more. But now, these giants are not only trees or insects. They are creatures of bone and scale, muscle and motion, dinosaurs. Imagine it softly, not as the roaring, flashing images of films, but as a slow unfolding in the rhythm of deep time. A valley filled with ferns, mist hanging low between the trees, and through the shadows, a tall, long-necked creature steps, each footfall gentle, pressing deep into the soil. Its head sways slowly above the canopy, reaching for tender leaves. Nearby, smaller creatures scurry. Some move on 2 legs, some on 4. Some graze in peace, while others watch carefully, silent hunters in the tall grass. The earth is alive with abundance. Every forest, every plain, every riverbank carries life. The air is warm, the land lush, the seas filled with their own vibrant stories. It is a grand experiment in size. In form, creatures grow larger than ever before. Some soar into the skies with vast wings. Some swim through the seas with powerful tails. And on the land, dinosaurs of every shape move slowly, each playing its part in the harmony of life. Perhaps, if the watchers are truly there, this is a moment of deep fascination. For here the garden blooms in full. It is bold, It is dramatic. It is varied beyond measure. They may not measure time as we do. They may watch the rise and fall of entire species the way we watch clouds drift across an afternoon sky. And perhaps they see, in this age of dinosaurs, a richness that few worlds achieve. For us, it is easy to imagine dinosaurs with awe, their size, their power, their mystery. But in truth, they were simply part of the same gentle unfolding that began with tiny cells in the sea. They are branches of the same tree, leaves on the same stem. Their presence a reminder that life is always exploring, always inventing new forms. Picture a peaceful scene, a river winding through a green plain, a herd of long-necked dinosaurs standing at its edge, lowering their heads to drink. The water ripples, the air hums with insects. The sun hangs warm in the sky. It is quiet, it is calm. It is simply life, resting within itself. Even the hunters, the sharp-toothed creatures, are part of this balance. They, too, belong to the garden. For every role has meaning. Every form has purpose. And perhaps the watchers see this. Perhaps they understand that the garden thrives not only in gentleness, but in balance. That every life, every creature is a piece of the whole. The age of dinosaurs lasts a long, long time. Longer than our human history by far. For millions upon millions of years, they walk the earth. They flourish. They vanish. They evolve into new shapes. Always moving forward, always changing to the watchers. This may be only one chapter, but to Earth itself, it is a grand symphony, a fullness unlike any before. And though we know that one day they will fade, for now, we linger with them, not at their end, but in their abundance. We sit with the image of forests alive with sound, plains filled with motion, skies touched by great wings. This is Earth's grand experiment in life. Plus an age of wonder, of beauty, of endless form. And in the quiet of night, we may find comfort in knowing that even the mightiest of ages is only part of a longer story. A story still unfolding, still carried by the same rhythm that began in the seas so long ago. So let us rest with this picture. Dinosaurs moving slowly across green valleys. The air warm, the earth abundant. A world alive with possibility, and perhaps always watched, always noticed, always part of something greater than we can yet see. Asterisk, the age of dinosaurs. So long, so full, so vibrant with life, comes at last to an end, not all at once, not in a single moment, but slowly at first, and then suddenly something shifts. The skies grow darker, the earth trembles, the balance that once held steady falters. We know it now as the Great Extinction. A meteor's fall, volcanoes rumbling, climate changing, forces beyond the control of life itself. And yet, this, too, is part of the story. This, too, belongs to the garden. Imagine the silence after, the forests emptied, the plains bare, the skies without wings. a hush across the earth like the pause between breaths. It may seem like an ending, but in truth, it is only a turning. For every ending on this planet has been a beginning in disguise. Life is not undone. It bends, it reshapes, it begins again. With what remains from the shadows of extinction, small creatures rise. Tiny mammals, once hidden beneath the feet of giants, now step into the light. Birds, to take to the air, their wings carrying forward the legacy of ancient reptiles. Earth softens once more. Forests regrow. Rivers wind their paths again. And soon a new balance begins to form. Perhaps the watchers, if they are there, see this moment with calm understanding. Perhaps they know that no experiment lasts forever, that each era is a cycle, a wave, a turning dot to them. The fall of the dinosaurs may be no tragedy at all. It may be the natural closing of one great chapter, the garden pruning itself, making room for what comes next. And so the story continues. The earth breathes again. The silence gives way to sound. The empty plains fill with life anew. And the experiment carries on. It is soothing when we think of it this way, to know that even great losses are not the end of the tale, that out of stillness, life always finds a way forward. Imagine a gentle scene, a small mammal, fur soft and warm, emerging from its burrow. It pauses, sniffs the air, then scurries into the grass. It does not know that the giants have gone. It only knows the moment, the air, the light, the call to live, and so it begins. A new chapter, quiet at first, but filled with promise. From these small survivors will come many forms, creatures that climb, creatures that run, creatures that think, creatures that dream. The earth, in its endless patience, welcomes them all. The rivers flow, the mountains rise, the forests whisper, the cycles turn. And through it all, the watchers, if they are truly there, may see that nothing is wasted. Every rise, every fall, is part of a greater pattern, a rhythm older than stars, gentler than time itself. So we rest with this thought, that endings are not endings, that silence is not emptiness, that renewal waits quietly, always near. The dinosaurs fade, but life endures. The garden reshapes itself, and soon the next chapter unfolds. For now, let us sit in that quiet turning, a soft breath in, a soft breath out, the pause between what was and what will be. And when we are ready, we will step forward into the age that follows. A gentler, smaller age, yet one with seeds that will grow into something extraordinary. Asterisk out of the quiet, out of the hush that followed extinction, come the small ones, tiny, soft-furred, warm-blooded beings. Once they hid beneath the shadows of giants. Once they lived in silence, burrowing, scurrying, keeping to the edges of the world. But now, the world is theirs to explore. The forests, once thundered through by dinosaurs, are now paths for quiet. Pause. The skies, once darkened by the wings of enormous reptiles, now open for the songs of birds. The plains, once shaken by the steps of giants, now stir with the light steps of small, nimble feet. Life, again, has found a way forward. And perhaps this is what the Watchers, if they exist, were waiting for. Not size, not strength, but adaptability, gentleness, curiosity. Imagine the first mammals as they move carefully through the undergrowth. Their ears twitch at every sound. Their noses lift, searching the air for food, for safety, for possibility. They climb, they dig, they leap, they scurry. Each one carries something new, a hidden potential, a spark waiting to grow. These creatures nurse their young. They protect them with warmth and care. In their tiny bodies, a different kind of future stirs. Not the future of giants, but the future of thought, of memory, of connection. The earth, in its patience, has given space for this new experiment. Bend experiment in gentleness, in warmth, in nurture. The forests regrow, the rivers flow, and the mammals spread slowly, quietly across the land. Some take to the trees, living among the branches. Some remain in the grasslands, quick and careful. Others stay close to water, learning new ways to swim and fish. Each path an unfolding, each form a story. If we could sit beside them in one of those ancient forests, we would hear a softer world. Not the roars of giants, but the quiet rustle of leaves, the tiny calls of hidden creatures, the distant song of a bird. It is a lullaby of renewal, a gentle chorus marking the beginning of something vast. And if the Watchers gaze upon this time, perhaps they lean closer, perhaps they see in these small, tender lives the first glimmers of intelligence, the beginnings of memory, of learning, of passing knowledge from parent to child, not yet in words, not yet in symbols, but in instincts, in care, in the way warmth is shared, the way lessons are carried, the way survival is softened by love. It is easy in our own lives to forget how small things matter. But here, in this story, it is the small that changes everything. It is the quiet, the gentle, the fragile that carries the future. So let us rest with that thought, that greatness is not always in power, that endurance is not always in strength, that sometimes the smallest lives hold the greatest promise. These mammals, tiny in the shadow of time, will one day grow into many forms. Some will become vast, others will remain small. But from them all, a future will bloom, a future that will carry thinking minds, dreaming hearts, questioning voices. The experiment continues. The garden grows, and life, patient and unhurried, moves forward once more. For now, let us sit with these small creatures in their forests, their burrows, their streams. Let us hear their quiet world, a world soft but full of promise. And in that promise, we may find comfort, for we, too, come from small beginnings. And even now, in our own lives, it is the quiet, the gentle, the nurturing moments that shape our future most of all. The mammals rise. The earth turns. The story continues. Asterisk, the small mammals, so gentle, so hidden, begin to change. Asterisk, not all at once. Not in a rush, but slowly, across millions of years, they find new ways of being. Asterisk, some stay close to the ground, some take to the water, but a few, a very few, turn to the trees. There, in the branches, a new path begins. Asterisk, hands reach outward, not claws, but grasping, turning hands. Eyes shift forward, watchful, curious, able to see in depth and detail. Bodies learn to swing, to climb, to leap from branch to branch. Asterisk, and in those movements, a mind begins to open. These are the primates, not yet human, not yet aware of the stars above them, but already something is stirring. A quiet intelligence, a careful noticing. Imagine them in their forests. The green canopy above, light spilling through leaves in gentle beams. The air warm, filled with the hum of insects, the distant calls of birds. A family of early primates moves through the branches. They pause. They watch. They learn. A young one picks up a fruit, turns it in its hands, examines it from every side. This simple act, so small, so ordinary, is also extraordinary. It is the beginning of wonder, the beginning of thought. From generation to generation, these creatures learn. They remember where the sweetest fruits grow. They recognize faces, voices, movements. They share bonds, not only through survival, but through care, through memory, through recognition. Perhaps the watchers, if they truly are there, lean in more closely now. Perhaps they sense that something delicate, something rare, is forming. Not just life, but mind. The garden has grown intelligence before, in insects, in birds, in cephalopods of the sea. But here, among the primates, it takes on a new shape, a new rhythm. Hands that grasp may one day build, eyes that watch may one day imagine, minds that remember may one day dream, and so, quietly, the path to humanity begins, not in drama, not in sudden leaps, but in countless small moments, in a fruit turned in a hand, in a face remembered, in a child carried, protected, taught. The forest holds them, the trees nurture them, and the earth, patient as always, gives them time. Time to grow, time to learn, time to become. It is soothing to think of it this way, that our beginnings are not grand, not violent, but gentle, that we come from hands reaching for fruit, from eyes watching the play of light, from bonds of care and memory. And if the earth is a field, if this is an experiment, perhaps this was the design all along. Not to see who could roar the loudest, tower, or run the fastest, or stand the tallest, but to see what might happen if creatures learned to notice, to wonder, to connect. The primates move through their forests. The cycles of life continue, and slowly, generation by generation, intelligence grows. It is not yet human. It is not yet language or culture, but it is the beginning of the thread. that will one day lead there. For now, let us rest with them in the forest. Let us feel the branches beneath our hands. Let us see the green light shifting above. Let us hear the calls of families in the distance. Breathe in the patience of time, because here, in these small beginnings, something remarkable stirs. Something that will one day ask the very questions we are asking tonight. Asterisk from the forest branches. From the quiet hands of primates, a new form slowly emerges. Not suddenly, not all at once, but across countless ages. The bodies change, the posture straightens, the hands grow more skillful, the minds grow more watchful, more curious. And there comes a moment, or perhaps many moments, when one of these early beings picks up a stone, sharpens its edge, and holds in their hands the very first tool. It is simple, a flake of rock, shaped for cutting, for breaking, for scraping. But it is more than a stone. It is thought made visible. It is imagination in action. With tools, life expands. The world offers new paths. Food is easier to prepare. Shelter easier to build. Survival a little more certain. And then fire. Perhaps lightning struck a tree. Perhaps a branch burned. And someone, somewhere, looked into the flames and did not turn away. They carried a spark. They tended it, fed it, kept it alive. And soon, fire became part of human life. Imagine the scene. A small group huddled in the dark of evening. The world around them filled with shadows, with distant calls. But at the center, a circle of light. The fire warms. The fire protects. The fire glows on every face. And with fire, something else is born. A circle of belonging. A place for stories, for gestures, for memory. The first sparks of culture. Perhaps the watchers, if they are there, observe this moment closely. For here is a turning unlike the others. Here, life is not just surviving. It is shaping. It is imagining. It is remembering. The humans begin to spread across plains, through forests, over mountains. They carry tools. They carry fire. They carry stories, step by step, generation by generation. They change. Their languages grow. Their symbols deepen. Their bonds strengthen. And the earth receives them as it has received all who came before. It gives them rivers to follow, mountains to climb, caves to shelter in. It gives them seasons to teach patience. It gives them stars to awaken wonder. The humans look up at those stars. They do not know yet what they are, but they see them and they wonder, and in that wonder, the seeds of philosophy, of science, of dreaming begin to grow. All of this from a sharpened stone. All of this from a flame tendered in the dark. It is soothing to think that the roots of humanity are found in such gentle things. In gathering together, in sharing warmth, in looking up at the sky. If this earth is a field, if we are a kind of experiment, then perhaps this is what was being waited for. Not only survival, not only strength, but imagination, curiosity, the first sparks of culture. For now, let us rest in that circle of firelight. Let us feel the warmth on our skin. Let us hear the quiet crackle of the flames. Let us watch the faces, calm, curious, lit by the glow. The dawn of humanity has begun. The story now is no longer only the Earth's. It is also ours, and gently we step forward into it. Asterisk. And now our journey slows. Our story, like a long train ride, nears its final stop. We have wandered through forests of ancient primates, through fires glowing in the night, through rivers where civilizations grew. We have looked upward at skies filled with stars and wondered if perhaps others have been watching all along. If the Earth is a field, a garden, an experiment, then what is it all for? Perhaps it is not about answers. Perhaps it is about the quiet unfolding, the gentle rhythm of life itself. The way rivers carve valleys, the way trees rise and fall, the way we learn, generation after generation, to care, to imagine, to dream. The watchers, if they are there, may not need to reveal themselves, for the story is enough. The garden has bloomed, the experiment has become its own meaning. And now, as night deepens, we return to silence. Picture the Earth from far above, blue sphere glowing softly in the dark of space, oceans shimmering, clouds drifting, cities sparkling faintly, like constellations upon the ground. From here, everything seems so calm, so whole, so beautifully fragile. Breathe with it slowly, deeply, as though your breath and the planet's breath are one. The stars stretch endlessly outward. The silence grows. And you, here, in this moment, are safe, held by the stillness of night, held by the quiet turning of the earth. There is nothing more to do now. No questions to answer, no mysteries to solve. Only rest, only stillness, only the gentle comfort of letting go. Perhaps, as you drift into sleep, you too are part of this garden, part of this quiet experiment, part of this endless story. And perhaps that is enough, to simply be, to simply breathe, to simply rest. So, close your eyes. Feel the calm settle around you. Let the stars watch over you. Let the earth carry you quietly, gently into sleep. Good night, good night, good night.
you.